Banger.
Hello, and welcome to a very special scouting report. Neil, did you enjoy that?
I did indeed.
Yeah,
The lyric was the real high point. The lyric was the real high point as far as I was concerned.
It's all
Absolutely
downhill
huge.
from here. It's all downhill from here, so I can swear.
It's AI at its finest.
I've been a skeptic. I've been a skeptic about the old AI. What do I know? That's me shown.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be joined by a truly global outlet, certainly the biggest collaboration that we've ever done. I don't want to be putting words in Neil's mouth, but that's, I imagine, how he feels about working with Argyle Live today. No, in all seriousness, welcome to Neil Atkinson from the Anfield Wrap. We're really grateful you've given up your time to join us to talk about the upcoming FA Cup game this Sunday. What's your first thoughts when you saw Argyle be drawn out of the hat, or you get drawn out against Argyle?
I think the first thing was that it was an away. I think that was your sort of, it depends, because if you're in the Auto Cup, then at times you feel a bit like, well, I'd like them not to just take me money on the one side. On the other, though, it was the most away possible. It would not get more away than this. So I think it's not that far away from being able to be classed as a European affair from Liverpool's point of view in terms of time to travel there and travel back. But listen, I think it's, there's on one hand, Plymouth find themselves currently bottom of the Championship. I know you guys hope and have reason to expect that might not remain the case, but it obviously comes out as a game that, a tie that people would broadly expect Liverpool to win on the one hand. But on the other hand, I think there's a bit of liberation for our opponent in this. I think Plymouth are in a position where, and I hope you all, when you get to the ground on Sunday, in all seriousness, everyone just enjoys it a little bit, being in part of year after year of 2 consecutive years of relegation dogfights, having a decent cup run to get excited about, or a good cup tie to get excited about, I think is really important. And I think that's why it's been chosen for television, because I think there'll be an expectation that it'll be a big crowd, a loud crowd, and also a set of footballers who can maybe also relax a little bit as well. It isn't, it isn't one of these where defeat has to mean the end of the world or the end of anything at this point. I just think putting a good performance in and seeing how long you can take the tie for will be the aim of those players. And I think there's no reason to think it'll be an easy day for Liverpool. I don't think it will be.
Yeah. Talking about easy days. Obviously, we've played previously, haven't we? Up at Anfield back in. It was the same. Was it the same round? January 2000? No, it was the round before, wasn't it? January 2017.
Third round, yeah.
Yeah, third round. Obviously, wasn't an easy day for yourselves then. Not a lot's happened to Liverpool Football Club since 2017, so I can imagine you think about that 0-0 draw with Derek Adams, Plymouth Argyle, an awful lot. What did you make of us back then? If you have any recollection or remember that game at all?
The only thing I remember a little darkly actually about Derek Adams, I don't know if he's someone who you're all fond of or not, but he said something before the second game. He did a little thing where he talked about, and we're going to show them the way real football works. And Lucas Leiva scores the winner. And Lucas Leiva was perhaps the realest footballer, one of the realest footballers that certainly Brazil have ever produced. He was not a footballer full of dreamy touches or anything like that. He was an absolute scrapper. And I always just sort of remember feeling a bit like, well, I don't like it when lower league managers make those sorts of noises as though the footballers don't know the born at the higher level, because you don't know the journey that they've had to be on to end up at the clubs that they've ended up at, a lot of the time. I do understand the idea that contemporary academies can be quite cosseted places maybe for some players, but footballers all go through a fair bit in order to be able to make it. So when I hear that sort of stuff, and I think there's another thing now that's I think happened since then in the game, which is the idea that when a Premier League side goes to a Championship side, it can be really physical, and there's the idea that the Premier League side, basically, to use the cliche, might not like it up them. I think that's sort of gone now, because the physicality, I think, of every Premier League side is unbelievable. Last season when Newcastle went to Sunderland, they went to Sunderland's ground, and there was maybe in years gone by, you'd have thought, well, Sunderland might make this physical and horrible. But basically, Newcastle are a team of 11 cyborgs, and there's some sort of rule which means that Joe Linton can't be booked. Yeah, and they just sort of ran all over Sunderland. They just ran all over them, and Sunderland were left physically just couldn't cope with it. And I think that the idea that sort of stuff is not, 2017 was about the end of that era of thinking, well, you can do that. Now I just don't think that that's really that possible with Premier League teams coming up against Championship teams. Is a big thing. I've just seen that Paul's asked if he's too late for the theme song. I'm sorry, Paul. You've turned up. We've started 6 minutes early because I was just early, and I feel like I've undermined. Maybe they'll play it again.
Outro. No, I think I could be 99% sure Derek Adams said that purely to wind people up. That's his calling card, is getting under people's skin. He could start a fight in the bathroom mirror. That's what he's known for wherever he goes. So yeah, I can imagine he was just
famously the best manager outside the Premier League, Ben. I think
yeah. Self-proclaimed. Yeah. I think those two games produced two of my one was one of my favourite images or memories associated with Argyle, which was, I don't know if they use this term in Liverpool, so there could be a bit of misunderstanding, but Sonny Bradley giving Emre Can a wet willy. I hope that means the same thing in Liverpool.
I think it does, yeah.
And then in the second leg, one of the worst things ever associated with Argyle was us giving Jurgen Klopp a massive ceremonial pasty, sort of like the Incas welcoming the conquistadors from a foreign land. It was the most parochial thing. With like, let's not be tin pot lads. Let's try and hold ourselves to account on the national stage. And here is a massive pasty, babe. It wasn't our finest hour. That.
But I mean, the other thing I remember from that game, my friend John that season was committing to go to every match. So with Liverpool weren't in Europe, so John saw an opportunity to do effectively every Liverpool game in a season. John does loads of stuff with us at the Anfield Wrap, and around in this season, Liverpool, before that Plymouth game, the one at Anfield, Liverpool go through the fifth round of the League Cup, and they get themselves a two-legged affair against Southampton, home and away, and we've got this home game against Plymouth. We've just sort of drawn with Sunderland at the Stadium of Light, and we've got this home game with Plymouth. And then 3 days later, it's St Mary's, and then I think it was then we had a game. I think another away game. I can't remember who it was against. And then we also had Plymouth in what became the replay. So the game's going on, and John was just at the point where he was realizing why very few people go to every game in a season. The slog of it all, the detriment to your home life, the way everything goes on, how hard this is. He had a trip to the South Coast on the horizon with Southampton. So approaching half time, and we sit separately in the ground, and I started to text John and say, lad, you're in for one here. And he came back with, I know, I'm really worried about it. And his texts were genuinely, it went from me doing needle to his texts being genuinely sad. And when it got to about 75, I was messaging him going, I'm really sorry, John. They're not going to score, mate. They're not going to score. And he texted me at about 85, and he said he supported any goal. he was just reduced to supporting any goal at that point, and it ends up being a replay, and he went to the replay to go and see what was a 1-0 where Liverpool only scored from a corner over the course of the game. So yeah, that's the other thing I always remember about this game against Plymouth, is that it pretty much broke a man's soul. It sapped his spirit.
Well, it's funny, although I can't get behind it. Poor guy. I remember at that game, or both games, a young Trent Alexander-Arnold being thrust into the first team. How much change do you expect to see? I think if Argyle, some of us want us to get a result. Some of us are hoping we can concentrate on the league, but I think those of us who do want a result, I'll be thanking Storm Dara for postponing your game against Everton, because if you'd have 9 points on the board in the league and you had a clear week next week, you could afford to. Because I think Arne Slot seems like quite a pragmatic guy, and he'd be interested in getting silverware on the board as quickly as possible, rather than throwing all his eggs in one basket, and might be interested in a cup run in the FA Cup, depending on how your result goes tomorrow night against Tottenham, especially. So how changed do you think you're likely to be with those 3 games that you've got within the span of the week?
This is the least significant of the games. I'll be honest, it will be the least significant of the games if we, had Manchester City away. I think, when you're in the 2 domestic cups, of being fortunate enough to be, well, we've been into the last of the 3 League Cup finals against Chelsea and won them both, and we've won an FA Cup in that period as well. And the way the 2 domestic cups, I think, have gone now to the Premier League teams at the top is they feel, if I say much to the muchness, I don't want to seem ridiculously spoiled in that, some of the best days I loved. The last 2 League Cup finals in different ways that we've won was really special and really good for the club and really good for the players. So I don't want to seem like it's sort of a complacency.
Really good to beat Chelsea.
Yeah, I'm really good to beat Chelsea. Yeah, and to do it the way in which we did on both occasions in different ways. So I think I'm of the view ultimately that I think if no matter who the opponent was on Sunday, I think that Liverpool would be making changes. I think the idea that it is Plymouth away makes me think that first and foremost there might be 2 or 3 of the very senior players who simply don't even travel. They may just decide that to err on the side of basically what's best for them. And then I think it will
Van
be.
Dijk and Konate didn't go at all, did they, to PSV? If I remember.
No, and I think that there's a fair chance Van Dijk, Salah, Gravenberch don't even basically leave Liverpool for this. But I still think that the thing we've got at the minute is that it's a fully fit squad. He wasn't able to put Gomez or Chiesa on the bench for our last league fixture there against Bournemouth. So they didn't travel for that. So I think he will be the Tottenham game. I think in the League Cup, this second leg that's coming tomorrow night, I think he'll go with his strongest possible team. And then I think where we end up is it'll be 10, 11 changes, just sort of sketching it out. I suspect James McConnell will start, who was the breakout star of the PSV game, which makes me think that, ultimately it might well be a team that looks a little bit like Kelleher in goal. Bradley probably is the one who backs to back, so he'll play against Tottenham, and I think he'll play in this because Trent isn't fit, and they'll want to save him for the game against Everton and give him the best chance. But Bradley might come off as part of that because they won't want Bradley to do 90 against Tottenham, 90 against Plymouth before doing Everton. Quansah and Gomez at centre-back, Shimikas at left-back. I think it'll be Endo and McConnell in the middle of the park with Curtis Jones in behind, Harvey Elliott off one flank, and I think it'll probably be Jota who starts at centre forward for this because I think Nunez might start against Tottenham. And then I think he may well go with Chiesa on the left-hand side and give himself the option of Gakpo or Diaz on the bench to be able to come on and give himself the option of Nunez to be able to come on as well. Nunez will therefore travel and be part of it. So, I think there'll be at least 2 of Gakpo, Diaz and Nunez on the bench if they don't start. And then I think within that as well, he'll give himself probably one of the starting midfielders will travel. So one of Szoboszlai and McAllister will travel if Gravenberch doesn't. I think that Quansah will travel. Konate will travel probably. And I think that Robertson will travel as part of it as well. And then, I said before, I think possibly Van Dijk, Salah and Gravenberch are the ones that he takes the opportunity not to play, makes his changes, but then will feel as though he's got moves to win the game if he needs them. And also just to give, a bit of freshness, because I think he might want to start Jota at Everton. I hope he wants to start Jota at Everton. So I think giving Jota 60 and going from there, I think it'd be no bad thing. So it's still a side full of, lads who played international football. Bradley's captain of Northern Ireland, Endo captains Japan. I think that, Jota's significant for Portugal. Chiesa's been a big player for Italy down the years. I just think, though, because it is Everton on the horizon on Wednesday, I do think it will be a much rested team with the Tottenham game as well.
Would it be a good game for Tyler Morton to get some minutes?
Well, I thought Morton might leave, but I think he will be on the bench and therefore he'll come on. The McConnell aspect, he said he doesn't want to send McConnell out on loan after the PSV game. And I'm surprised, not surprised by that. And I think McConnell's a really, really good player. But at the start of the season, it felt like Trey Neone was the young prospect who was the front of the queue. But Neone is firstly 17 and McConnell turns 22 this year, I think, or 21 at least. So, there's a lot of football between 17 and 21, 22. So, but McConnell has got ahead of that group. And it feels as though McConnell's also got himself ahead of Morton. So I suspect Morton will travel. But they've also turned down an offer from Middlesbrough late in the window for Morton of over 10 million. So I think if you're Arne Morton, you're within your rights to sort of think, well, I want to at the very least get on the pitch against Plymouth because what else am I doing? When's my next game come from if it's not this? So I think Morton probably does feature at some point. Being honest, I think that what you might see is, if it's going well for whatever it's doing, Bradley plays 45 to 60 minutes. Then Morton comes on for Bradley. Gomez goes right back, and then Endo drops back into centre back, and Morton and McConnell make up the midfield too. for a period of time and hold the fort, depending on how everyone's getting on, and then go from there. And then Liverpool make other decisions around that. Jones, if there's the feeling that he might be needed one way or another to be pressed into service at Goodison, may well come off for Nione again, especially if it's going well. But the other thing that we don't know, for instance, what happens in the game against Tottenham. One or two of them might end up with an injury. That might mean he rethinks things a little bit. So, and the other thing to point out about the Tottenham game is it like this one, it can go 120 minutes. And I think that is, that's a live factor in all of this. And that's the thing I think he really won't want. I think that he won't really want to put anyone through the maelstrom of doing 120. So I'm of the view that he'll do it will, as I say, it will just be strong, because unless injuries bite between now and then, he's got a lot of footballers who just genuinely need a game or would want a game, and so I think that they'll be featuring. I don't think it's not going to be a team of 17-year-olds. The average age of the one in the first game, I looked it up before coming on. So last time out, the average age for the game at Anfield was 21.8 for Liverpool, which is so young. I suspect this time it will be a fair bit older than that, just allowing for the idea of Gomez, Endo, Jota, Chiesa, Shimikas. These are players in the prime. Maybe Endo even just about to come out of his prime. And I think that all of those players will be featuring. So it's not going to be a team of kids.
Yeah, and I think there'll be players there like Elliott, Endo, who will be wanting some more minutes, and so a cup run isn't, the worst thing for them. So they'll be quite happy to put a shift in and try. Where's their next game coming from? In the
and you're probably right. It's probably the fifth round of the cup.
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
probably the fifth round of the cup. So
motivated pros.
Yeah, and also Kelleher, where's Kelleher in goal? Kelleher, who's really impressed this season. But you think from this point on, Champions League games are all going to be Alisson's, and league games are all going to be Alisson's, and there's only really one more League Cup game, and the manager's used Alisson so far in goal in the League Cup. He doesn't feel as though Klopp persevered with Kelleher right the way through and gave him the final and things like that. We don't know what Slott's policy is going to be on that yet. So if you are Kelleher and you want your football to keep coming this season, the fifth round of the FA Cup is the best place that it comes, and that's one of the things that is there for these players is the idea of that. And the other thing to point out is the fifth round of the FA Cup will come 3 or 4 days after Newcastle at home, and 2 or 3 days before a Champions League last 16 first leg. So again, it will appeal to the manager, you would think, at that point, to be making wholesale changes for that as well, whoever the opponents are.
Yeah,
of all the players that you...
I'd have said put Nunes on, because we'll solve anybody's striking problems, but that might not be the case now. Go on, Aaron. What were you saying, bud?
No, sorry, I was just going to say, of all the players that you mentioned, the one that scares me most is Conor Bradley. The last time that we played Conor Bradley in a cup game, we lost 4-0 at Wembley to his Bolton Wanderers team. So he scares me the most, because there were rumours that we were potentially in for him at some point. I think that was more last season, to take him on loan, and I'd have absolutely loved that. I think especially the way we played under Schumacher would have been brilliant. Schumacher, who himself has gone to Bolton now, so but yeah, he scares me a little bit. He's adapted quite well to Premier League / the minutes he's got with you guys.
Yeah, I've liked him a lot, and I liked him a lot last season when he broke through. And this season, I think he's found aspects a little tougher from time to time. I don't think it's quite been. I think with a lot of young players, progress is, you want to think that it's always going to be a graph that endlessly moves upwards in a nice diagonal, but sometimes it just isn't. And he's had a couple of knocks, injuries over the course of the season. But what he is capable of, I think, in the long run in the position, I think is absolutely enormous. Genuinely, I think he could be a brilliant right back, and it's striking to me that for his country, he often sort of features further forward because of his talent, because he can make things happen in the final third. And he was excellent when he came on against Bournemouth. He was exactly, it wasn't the plan change, I don't think, by the manager, but it was actually the change that we needed at that point, in that he gave Semenyo and Kirkes a lot to worry about going the other way. Whereas I think Trent was trying to play the position a bit more conservatively over the course of the game. Bradley just came on full of aggression, as was also the case for Nunez, Endo, and Curtis Jones. It was it was what happens against Bournemouth is almost your 4 dream substitutes. They all came on and massively positively impacted the game, showed tons and tons of aggression, and got up to speed really quickly. So that went really well. And again, this is part of Liverpool's squad just sort of being really quite harmonious at the moment. Everyone knows what the job is. When called upon, everyone produces the goods. So we feel as though it's in a really good place. And obviously you can see that in the league table as well. It couldn't be going any better. And if they do get a positive result against Everton next Wednesday, 9 points clear with 14 games to go is just about as much as anyone can hope for any season. And it'll be, I think that they'll take some stopping and take some catching if that's the case.
I think going back to the first game again, just one thing I want to add is I think Emre Can that day is individually the best player I've ever seen live. There was just something about him that day that I just couldn't stop watching him. And I don't know if it's because we were like near the bottom of League Two and he was just incredible, but it's like he had Velcro on his boots. And I just remember like this kid's good. He's done all right for himself, to be fair.
Yeah, yes.
I suppose the only other thing really is obviously Joe Gomez, and we've already mentioned Trent, but they're the only two survivors from either of the games that we've played you. I expected a bit more from Gomez in his career, or is he sort of just doing what you expected?
He's been really unfortunate with injury. I think there's a couple of times he has a really bad leg break playing right back against Burnley. Gets himself back into the setup, and he's integral to the league winning team in 2019-20. It's him and Van Dijk who are the centre-back partnership that see Liverpool through the winter when the winning game after game after game. Gomez is as important to that as anybody else really in that period. But then he gets himself another injury that starts the following season. Then Virgil gets injured, really bad injury, and it becomes Gomez's defence. He becomes the senior centre-back partner. And then he gets injured on England duty in I think around the October international break of that COVID season. He goes away and his knee explodes basically. And then from there, the following season, he just ends up in a bit of a funny position where Liverpool are effectively managing Van Dijk back. But you can't manage two centre-backs back from serious 8-9 month injuries at once, and Liverpool rightly prioritise Van Dijk. So Van Dijk has a really good, strong 2021-2022 season, but it takes Gomez about another year then to get himself back in. And then every Liverpool player at the heart of Liverpool's midfield falls apart in the 22-23 season. So it becomes an underwhelming year. And then Gomez finds himself suddenly at the scene of a lot of crimes, which is never good for a central defender. When suddenly, when you're the first player in shot, as the terrible things have happened and the ball's ended up in the back of the net, you're the one going. Is never a good look, and that's sort of where it ended up. But last season, he got a lot of games, played all over the place, left back, right back, centre back, and holding midfield for Jurgen Klopp. And this season, this manager's been more about stability and clarity in his selection. But when Gomez got in, when Konate got injured, he was excellent, absolutely excellent. But then he himself got an injury just as Konate was coming back to full fitness. So Gomez getting, I think, back in and getting around the squad is going to be really useful, especially as the games do begin to really mount up the other side of this. So this is a big game for Gomez in that, if he can get a good 90 minutes under his belt, I think he can reassert himself a little bit. I think he's sort of seen off Quansah as who's the challenger really for Konate's position as the partner for Van Dijk. I think that Gomez will be that man. And I think he can also, from time to time, look at getting a couple of games at fullback, or at least appearances at fullback as the season wears on. And he's definitely got a role to play in us hopefully being able to compete on at least two fronts between now and the end of the season. I've seen Liverpool go for 2 quadruples, and I've seen that it's just dead hard. And you need to be
it must be tough, that though.
It's a lot of fun from our point of view, but in both instances, Liverpool. Well, in one of the last season, Liverpool ended up with only 1 trophy, quarterfinals and 2 cups, and exactly. And this is why the stuff's always difficult. And I say this when we go and do other stuff. Like a lot of this, you don't know you're born, and it's fantastic, to get that and have that. And then the other year, Liverpool, come as close as anyone's ever come to a quadruple. They win 2 cups, and they're basically Robin Olsen not being a hologram in goal for Aston Villa, and Thibaut Courtois not being an enormous concrete wall in goal for Real Madrid, away from winning the other two, the bigger prizes. But you do get to see it is just it becomes just such a slog for the players when you get into late April and May, because it's just big game after big game. Getting to watch them all is brilliant. It's an absolute sensation. It's a brilliant thing to get to do. But the flip side of it is those players, it does begin to take the toll. So Liverpool do need everyone fit, and this weekend I think is important for development and fitness to keep those players ticking over, who we will need at times as the season continues to keep moving.
Sorry to jump over you again, Ben, but really quickly, Neil, is this another season where you're realistically in with a chance of a quadruple? It feels like you are. Feels like the Premier League's all but tied up.
The Premier League is not all but tied up. Arsenal are a good side, and I think they're going to keep coming. They'll use the weekend as a big jumping off point, and the sooner their momentum stalls, the better from our point of view. But that said, the idea that if we go to Goodison, we go 9 points clear, it will be absolutely fantastic. No, I just think it might just be impossible. I think you've got to be so lucky. I think we're a really difficult team to beat at the moment, but the League Cup game against Tottenham is a really good example of it. There was a little bit of Liverpool happy with a draw because it's a first leg or two, and maybe Liverpool didn't quite go quite as all out as they might have done if it was just a one-legged affair. But it just shows, a bit of mad refereeing. A lad takes an opportunity, a player's off injured, and you lose a game. We've only lost 2 games all season, but
that's enough about Sunday, right?
Well, you've got to go for 1-0. No, I think it can happen, and I just think that there's 2 or 3 brilliant Manchester United sides that nearly do it. Arsenal go a season unbeaten, but only lift one thing, I think, at the end of it, if I remember rightly. A league season unbeaten. There's a Chelsea side who only got a double because they lost at Anfield to a much inferior Liverpool team. Manchester City themselves, you've seen what they've struggled with whilst winning 2 or 3 other trophies. There's a Man City side that wins the treble with the FA Cup, the League, and the European Cup, but got beat 2-1 by Nathan Jones' Southampton away from nowhere. Nathan Jones barely wins a game as Southampton manager, but wanted to stop Manchester City from doing it. I think you've just got to be so lucky, because I think winning anything, you've got to be lucky. Like, I think I think even league titles, there's certain days where you need the ball to bounce your way. We're sat here now and we deserve to beat Brentford, but Darwin Núñez does need to score 2 injury-time goals to do it. That's not the grand plan. So I think that being aware of how hard it is, I just don't think so. In a ton of ways, I think you almost want to be able to focus on the other ones, but what Liverpool aren't going to do is not pick the 11 that most suits for this game. They're not going to play under 18s. They're just gonna go there and do what they're going to do. And yeah, I also agree with that comment, to be honest with you as well. I think I'm expecting a big crowd, noisy, pressure, direct football, from what you've both said to me separately. And Liverpool will have to see that off. But then I think when they do, it'll settle and they'll go from there. And I think over the course of the campaign, quadruples, I mean, Jesus, I'll take any league title you offer me. And I don't care about anything else. I'll go to Tottenham on Thursday. If you give me a league title, I'll go to Plymouth on Sunday. If you give me a league title, I'll go out to some bums in Europe. If you give me a league title, I just want a league title. I think the league title where we all get to celebrate it together, because the one that we didn't get when we still got 99 points. We won 26 out of the first 27 games, got 99 points, but the pandemic hit. And it meant that we never got a parade, we never got a big party, we never got all the stuff that you get when you're brilliant and you get to win things. So, without sounding too spoiled, I'll take anything as long as you just give me a league title at the end of it.
Winning a league title with 101 points for everyone.
Well, there we are. Yes, it's not. No, we can't all have that. Yeah. There we go.
Well, Ben, sorry.
No, I was just say we'll take that. We'll agree. You can have the Premier League, and you lose to us on Sunday. We'll slap your hand off.
I would sign on the dotted. Genuinely, if in some way, shape, or form we could do a deal with any devil you've got going, I would just sign on the dotted line. Sign on the dotted line right now.
Lovely. For the last couple of questions, if that's all right.
That's all right.
What's your prediction for the game, given the big changes you're predicting in lineup? Yeah,
I don't think Liverpool will keep a clean sheet. So I think there'll be a goal in it for Plymouth. But I do think that Liverpool, I suspect they've got 3 goals in them. I think the team will be a little bit stronger than the one that, for instance, scored 2 at PSV Eindhoven. So I think it'll be a little stronger than that team. So, I think that Liverpool Plymouth 1, Liverpool 3 or 4, I think is your likely outcome over the course of the game. And I also think there's a chance that the manager, for whatever reason, when he makes his subs, there's a couple that come on and make Liverpool stronger, not weaker. And against PSV Eindhoven, the subs made Liverpool weaker, not stronger. But I think he may well bring on a couple who will offer a little bit more, who he just wants to give half an hour to keep them in rhythm. So yeah, I'm Plymouth 1, Liverpool 4. Let's just say that.
Fair dues. Can't argue with that. Really, is the best team in the world right now. The last question: is anybody from the Anfield Wrap coming down?
We've got a couple who are going to be around. I'm not, unfortunately, but there's a couple who will be making the trip, and we'll be around the place, and that'll be, they're looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, feel free to hit Aaron up in the group chat, in the private chat, and he'll to point you in all the right places for a pint. I'm sure.
I'll do Aaron. I'll do you an email tomorrow. Just wherever you fancy, let us know.
Yeah, let's do it.
Fabulous,
brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Neil. Really appreciate your time.
No, thanks. And thanks for everyone, and thanks for everyone for being sound in the comments as well. Take it easy, and genuinely, all the stuff that's going on. I think, with a bit of luck, you stay up in the big picture. So I hope that happens. Take care, everyone. See you later on.
Cheers, Neil. Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, we go like that. There we go. I go on the left. I go on the right, or the other way around. Whatever. Yeah. Pretty.
That was really good, wasn't it?
I'm more confident now. I said on Neil's pod, the Anfield Wrap, links below if I've done my job properly anyway. That we're going to win 1-0. I think it might be 2 now. As Kenny says, like, have you not seen our new defenders? There's no way. Maxi and God, what's he called? Katic. There's no way they're conceding to that. Absolutely no chance.
No, I mean, Liverpool's away record is absolutely insane. I think they're unbeaten away in the league all year. Even the last 2 games of the previous season, 11 wins out of those 14 games or something. So them not bringing Van Dijk at all, maybe not even bringing Konate either, would be a massive boon. There's no chance of us getting a result if they're not sort of playing concert and Gomez like he suggested. But yeah, it's going to be a stretch, isn't it? But that gives you hope. It's the hope that kills you. We were all just looking forward, I think, to a good game, but now it's almost like, do you know what? Maybe there's a cup set there. Whereas, if it had been full strength or even close to full strength, it would have been no chance at all, would it? How do you think we're going to line up though?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think I said on Anfield Wrap podcast, we're not too sure because we have to balance that. We have to balance a consistent squad that are still getting to know each other with a lot of new faces and a lot of departing faces. We have to balance that with a big game on Wednesday against Millwall, which is arguably a much bigger game. You also then have to balance the squad's morale. There are certain players that if you drop them for the Liverpool game, no matter how important the Millwall game is, will sulk about it. And I would as well. If I was Adam Randall and all of a sudden I was being dropped for Caleb Roberts, I'd have an incredible mood on. But yeah, I don't really know. Obviously, I think Hazard stays. I'm not sure Grimshaw's become a quote unquote cup keeper, but maybe he has. Yeah, I think we're pretty similar to how we started against. Who did we beat the other day? West Brom. Yeah, I think we start similar to how we did against West Brom. Maybe like a Darko JB, Caleb Roberts midfield just to give Houghton and Randall a rest. But like I said, I wouldn't want to drop either of them now. They'd be incredibly pissed off.
Yeah, it's kind of like Neil said. If you give them a league title, they'll drop everything else. I mean, if you give us 3 points against Millwall, I'd quite happily lose this game by a hammering, really, because I feel that's the big issue for us, isn't it? But like you say, are you going to upset players? Are you going to risk, annoying people who since the draw's been made are going to be all up for this game? And if you do, how much? But what if they get injured? It's that toss up, isn't it? Between people going to get tired, 120 minutes in the leg, all of that.
There are people like Matty Sorinola that I just don't really want to. I just don't want to see him start because he's played so well recently to the point where
his legs are basically made of cramp, though, aren't they? So it's like
exactly. But I also don't want to take him. I don't want to take the opportunity. Luckily, I don't have to choose the team, but I don't want to take that opportunity away from him when he's played so well. So it's a a bit of a mix up. There's a question here from John Chris Benson. He says, "Are the new signings can they play? None of them are cup tied teams. They're from other leagues. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to."
I can't see any.
No, I think they're all good.
No.
They're all good.
I imagine the manager will say he'll look at the health data, see who's tired, who's close to getting knackered. Do you think how most he starts? And then anyone who's not at risk of injury, just say, "Do you want to play?" And maybe he'll put out a team. If everyone's going to say they want to play, he'll put out the side he thinks is best. And then if we start getting tonked, he'll say, "Right, everyone's coming off and we're leaving it." It is hard because do we even want even beating Liverpool, as great as that is, as a feather in the cap? Do we want the cup run? That's the other thing. It's going to start stacking games together. It's sort of money for the club, but for the players and the squad, which we've all agreed is quite thin. Do we want that? Like you said, Sorinola are probably only recognised right wing back. Do we want to risk an injury there? It's just there's so much to consider that as fans, the romanticism of it is maybe a bit more of a draw than it should be because we get carried away and forget that these are real human beings with real bodies, with real problems at this stage of the season.
It's also completely different to, the games against the last time we played Liverpool, when we were in the depths of League Two, and that this is so much money that it's going to revolutionise at least some transfer business going forward and sort the club out financially. And then there's the game against Chelsea, which obviously was away, which is completely different. And, going 1-0 up against them was obviously absolutely incredible from a personal point of view. It still is. Oh, happy Macaulay Gillespie Day, by the way. That was today, but it'd be incredibly Argyle. And I know everybody says it all the time on typical Argyle, but it would be so us to just somehow sneak a 1-0 win against Liverpool and then draw Stoke away in the next round in an empty ground, get no money, get only the prize money, which I'm sure is a few quid, but just an absolute track up there to a game that you definitely want to go to just in case we win it. And we're into I don't even know what's after that. It's not the 6th round, is it? Is that quarterfinals already? Oh, 6th round. And that would be incredible, but then we'd only draw Coventry or something. It'd just be like, unless we actually do a Wigan, and we win the FA Cup and get relegated. But let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet.
It's good to be able to do that. I think it's a nice distraction for us, and even if it wasn't Liverpool, I think if it was someone else coming to town, we'd be thinking about the chance of progressing in the FA Cup. I think it's the fact that when it is Liverpool is almost a distraction from the fact that it's a distraction, if that makes sense. It's it's a massive game against a big team, which is be fun for the players, but actually it's nice to not be worrying about the league. And I feel like it'd be nice to be able to go and watch Argyle and not care, there not be anything riding on it. Does that make sense? Just be well, it is what it is. If we lose, it's not going to be, I'm not going to be checking the league table throughout the whole 90 minutes, seeing what the other scores are, and sort of worrying about where we are. It'd just be nice to watch Argyle play a competitive, proper game of football that actually doesn't have anything riding on it whatsoever.
Yeah, there's also the jeopardy within this game that I don't want to see us concede early, but I also sort of like you said earlier, want it done at a point where we can bring players off, we can bring on maybe Tegan Finn and Caleb Roberts and give them a big moment at home park against the club. But I also don't want to be in the position where we're 8 minutes in and we're we can win this.
Yeah.
And for it to be whipped away from us. This is there's a no-win situation here unless we win. Well, even if we get a goal early, we're 1-0 up and we're just sitting in for 80 minutes, then your arse is twitching then for ages. There's just no way we win this, right? Even if we do win the game, we're not going to win the game. If that makes sense.
Ironically, the best thing for the squad is probably to get hammered 3-0 in the first half and take everyone else off. Any scenario that sees us winning the game sees the squad getting run into the ground, doesn't it? And being exhausted for Millwall. So, as Craig says there, Millwall is the bigger game. But yeah, it's how many times do you get drawn against Liverpool? Every 7-8 years, apparently. But
yeah. But that's another thing that factors into it. Is that when we were, and as Neil said earlier, when we were in League Two and it was all up and at them and in their faces and being shithouses and Sonny Bradley doing wet willies and stuff, that was fun and it was funny because we were, compared to them, dreadful. Whereas now, because we're a Championship club, you're we've had our moment against Liverpool. Ideally, this could just be like anybody else. I would have preferred this to be literally any other Premier League team that isn't like a Brentford or a Fulham. Sorry to them. We've already beaten one of them this season. But like, do you know what I mean? Like any other big side at home park would have been incredible. I'm like talking myself out of this. I'm incredibly excited. I can't wait for Friday. So I don't know why I'm talking myself down, but
what are you doing on Friday?
Oh yeah, it's Sunday, isn't it? Yeah. But I'm coming down on Friday. So
like a 48-hour, 72-hour bender, is it? Sort of start it Friday.
That'll do. It gets to the point where I can't even see the game, a la George at Port Vale. But that's an in joke that nobody will understand, and people already say that we have too many in jokes on this pod. So yeah, but I think that's unless you've got anything else to cover.
No, just unless you want to sort of try and predict the lineup. I don't think, like I say, I've got no idea whether the manager's going to tell them all, look, lads, let's be serious here, or he's going to say, do you know what, you've earned it, go out and do it. He might go either way, and I can understand him going either way. I don't think there's an obvious choice, so I don't know if it's even worth us predicting a lineup unless you want to pick who you would play if it was you. But
yeah, it's kind of hard because obviously seeing Miron in the stands after Brentford, filming it on his phone, makes me think that he's going to be like, these guys need this, that they love this. Like, I can imagine he's heard of the FA Cup and whatever. I'm not going to stereotype just because he's from Austria, doesn't understand English competition and all that. But like, the FA Cup is special, right? And you have to take these games when they come along, because they don't come along that often. Although we've had, like you said, a few in recent years. Like you have to make the most of them. But then again, I'm just reiterating the same points. But Millwall is such a big game where I would take the 3 points there. But I think there's something about him filming that, the scenes at the end of the game that makes me think he's going to take it like semi-seriously, if not all in, and just say, what's the worst that can happen? A couple of people get injured. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, cross that bridge when we come to it. Because if you spend ages worrying about somebody getting injured, then you'll never know, because you just won't play them. And then, like I said, they might. Yeah. You don't want to live in regret and be like, what if we played a stronger team? What if we did? Like, yeah. It could be. Also, we don't know what Slot's going to do. If he comes along and does play an even weaker team than Neil gave us, and there is no Chiesa, there is no Gakpo, there is no Jota, there is no whatever, and it's just a team of people that like we've barely heard of with double-barreled names that have got like number 92 on the back of their shirt because they're that far down in the academy, then we'd be like, shit, we should have fucking bolstered that squad, right?
I think that speaks to what I said about maybe starting a strong side and then take him off if you start getting hammered if it's a strong side. I mean, when you were speaking, then something you said made me think that like him and his psychology and saying they deserve it. It made me think that maybe he'll use it for psychology. Maybe he'll give the start to the guys who are buying into him. Like everybody who's on his side, everyone who's bought in, he'll reward them with, keep them on side, or maybe some of those who need convincing. But okay, you'll get a game here to prove yourself. He's the sort of guy I think that will use this sort of situation to his advantage in the dressing room. So there might be some of that at play, and we might see some strange decisions. But I don't think we really know until the day. And then when the team sheet will come out and we'll say, oh well, he's chosen to do this or he's chosen to do that. But
the team sheet came out of Brentford, and I went, oh well.
Yeah, true.
It's gonna be a fun day out, and then we go and do what we did. So it's like, yeah. But obviously, I know Rencuz loves it when I use his username and not his actual name. But he says I actually have to disagree and see this as our only game we can properly get excited for until the end of the season. And again, like maybe I'm just being too pessimistic, and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm being even down on it. But he's completely right that like after this, it's nail biting survival till the end of the season. So like we have to enjoy this one. I think as a crowd we will, but as a club we might not. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So predict it. If we had to predict a lineup, Hazard, Puach starts at left back. I don't see any reason why you drop him. Maybe Mumba starts at right back because of Saranola's made of what did you say? Cramp. I think you said spam.
Cramp, yeah.
Cramp.
No, it's made of
not made of spam. Maxi and Katic start again. I think Katic might come off again slightly early, but they just have to build minutes. And is there a better way to build an incredible defensive partnership than against arguably the best club side in the world right now? I don't think there is.
Pleggy.
Yeah, and then Pleggy again. But then like, one of those gets injured. Yeah, I forget that we play back 5. And
We've
then
got Zooch to
midfield.
come back soon, hopefully. So we've got Zooch to come back soon. So I feel like you could.
I know Suchi is a Liverpool fan, right? Do I or one of them is. One of them, I remember one of them saying that he's a Liverpool fan when they signed. Maybe that was Beatty. Yeah, I don't know. One of them will really want to play. Someone, at least one of the 11 anyway. That's a good. And then like Roberts played so well up at Brentford. I feel like you have to start him, but like feel like dropping Houghton's harsh because Houghton's been with us for years and been like been through it all. And
but then Houghton coming on to sort of maybe take control of the game late on.
Yeah,
if you can convince him that we need that for the last half hour. There's potential.
Yeah, maybe.
There.
And then so maybe a Randall Roberts midfield 2 then with Beidou and Bundu. I think Bundu's undroppable at the moment. In behind Hardy. Yeah.
How fit's TJ? I really don't know what he looked like. He was on the grass and he's training and came on and all of that. But that I don't know if he's fit enough to start yet.
He feels like one that's going to be. He came on to the end of the last game, didn't he? I feel like he's one that we just slowly introduced closer and closer to the halftime whistle, and then we maybe I can't even remember our fixture list now, but towards the end of February, starting again. I think as good as Hardy was against West Brom, I think I just think TJ fits that system slightly better. But again, Hardy's earned the right to start on Sunday, I feel, because bringing us up from League 2 to Championship, I feel like he should get the nod over a slightly crocked loan signing. Do you know what I mean? Like, but again, is that sentimental over a chance of winning it? I don't know. I'm waffling.
Well, they're just thinking about who they're going to be playing at centre back. He's not going to be going up against absolute monsters in Kanate and Van Dijk, so it might give Hardy a bit more of a game, get him running in. But then you could argue that play him left inside forward and TJ up top and Moose on the other side was probably getting the Moose is, like you said, they probably are in form forward, and Hardy, I know it was only a brace, but it looks to be hitting that patch of form we've been waiting for. So if you could get them both on the pitch and TJ to maximise the system. I think now that he's got that is Muslich, now that he's got the squad finalised for the rest of the season, he's going to have to adapt slightly from maybe what he'd have hoped to have done. I don't think we've got everybody in that he wanted, in the positions that we wanted, but he now knows, and so maybe it's a good opportunity actually to start changing the way we're shaped up top, because I think we work well as a back 5. Our full-backs aren't really full-backs, they are wing-backs, and a back three works for our centre-backs, I think. But I don't know if the big man up top with the 2 behind picking up the knockdowns is necessarily going to work unless TJ's back pretty quickly and proves himself to be effective. So it might be that this is a good game to try. We'll see something different up front. He tries something that maybe just because it's a free hit rather than try it against Millwall or trying to introduce it in games where we're going to be losing points and we haven't got the time to. We might see something funky up front, but we haven't really got a clue, have we?
Yeah, it feels like that 10 position is the real question, right? Because it could be Al Haj, could be Beidou, could be, like you said, Hardy could play off the left. It could be Callum Wright. I thought was pretty good against West Brom, especially maybe first half. But there's a few questions there, maybe. But yeah, I think a few of the comments. Chris Benson says Hazard, Maxi, Powson, Katic, Puhac, Mumba, Randall, JB, Beidou, Al Haj, and Hardy. Paul Burke, love this. Says he's got to start Moose. Loves a goal at home park against current Premier League teams, beginning with L. After I don't even need to explain that. If you need that explaining to you, then you're an idiot. And Ninja Matt says maybe a great type of game to get Beidou some confidence. I think it's a great game for all of them to get a bit of confidence,
there's
right?
Probably something in that, given that it's the Liverpool team's probably going to be one that's going to put their foot on the ball and try and play. And Bailey just gets no time in the Championship. He's come from a league that's a lot slower. So there's actually probably something in that comment that he might have more time on the ball. He might not be getting snapped into. Having said that, Liverpool are very good at that. When they're playing players like Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott, they can be very quick in the press. So if they've got a young midfield that's trying to sort of take the ball and build up, then and not necessarily throw themselves about with confidence and abandon, then it would be great. If he decides to start, say, Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott, he might get absolutely minced in there and destroy his confidence. So that would be a call that, you know, if he got took off at half time. I know he was poorly, wasn't he? But he got took off pretty early in the last game against West Brom. So yeah, I don't think he'd want to face that again. He wouldn't want to get overrun in midfield and then have to come off at half time again. I think that might do more damage than good to his confidence. But conversely, if things go the other way and it's a really young-looking midfield, sort of McConnell or Morton in there, like Neil suggested, it might be. Then he can, you know, pick on them a little bit, and it might do him good. There's so many unknowns in this game. It's really annoying, really, because if you could get your head around what you think it's going to be, you could kind of build it up in your head and tell you it's going to be, oh, you're not going to be able to do it because this will happen or that happens. But it's really going to be a massive unknown, both team sheets and obviously what happens.
Yeah, I think also like Bainu against Brentford, like it wasn't. I agree with what you're saying. It's time on the ball. He's not getting as much as he's maybe used to. But against Brentford, it was the other way around, where he looked like a bit of an energetic man who was going to run and chase, and obviously his legs went towards the end. But like maybe more time off the ball might actually do him better as well in terms of that pressing game and adapting to what Muslic wants. So there's always that. I suppose the only other thing, Ben, before we do predictions, is maybe like, I can't remember if we done it on this pod or did we do it on the Anfield Wrap where we just speak about the previous games against Liverpool.
I think that was on the Anfield Wrap. Yeah, I think you joined.
Let's do it here then. Let's do it here. Let's repeat. Let's regurgitate what we've already said.
We said on the Anfield Wrap, just to say it again, just that, you know, look at us mixing in circles above our station.
Those memories of the 0-0 draw up at Anfield, and I remember like at the time just being absolutely delighted. Like, I've never been prouder of an Argyle squad under the shithouse that is Derek Adams up at Anfield against at the time a team full of relative youngsters, but looking back, there's some huge names in that team.
Yeah.
Especially the long ones like Trent Alexander-Arnold. That's a huge name. But Sturridge played, Firmino played, Ben Woodburn obviously not done a lot since.
He played at Home Park, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Divock Origi started that game up there. Albert Moreno, who was a decent Premier League left back. Joe Gomez, who's still at the club. Obviously Lucas Leiva. Karius, who went on to play in Champions League finals, albeit had a shocker, but still did it. Like Nathaniel Klein, Wijnaldum was on the bench, and obviously nobody can forget Ragnar Klavan. Also bowler, but yeah,
we laugh at some of those names. You sort of like think, Nathaniel Klein's sort of like stealing in there into a Liverpool side, but like we're taking Nathaniel Klein in that sort of form. It's like this. No one that even the youngsters. If you think about the youngsters that he said about McConnell, Middlesbrough came in for McConnell and was turned down because Liverpool want to keep him at the club. Dan's has just gone to Sunderland on loan. So the quality of youngster that we're going to be playing against is they're still going to top championship clubs on loan at the minute. It's not as if like it gives us a chance because if they're top championship level, we've just shown in the last two games we can get a draw, get a win against the teams placed 4th and 6th in this league. So that gives us hope, but it's not as if they're just rubbish. They're youngsters that Liverpool have not sent out on loan for a reason, right? So it's gonna we're gonna have probably a few names this time round, aren't we? Who will say, oh, they look bright, and then in 10 years' time, we'll look back and see the careers like Trent. They'll be playing in Champions League finals and linked with Real Madrid and all this, as opposed to there'll probably be more of those than there will be Ragnar Klavans, I imagine.
Well, I don't know. Klavan was a special breed of player. I think Kenny says as well, not forgetting that McCormick saved a pen from Origi. Again, did Origi score in a Champions League final, or have I made that up?
Well, I don't know if he scored in the. Oh yeah, he did against Spurs, didn't he? Yeah, it was against Spurs. He got like right at the end. He made it 2-0, didn't he? I think.
Exactly.
But
So,
he was celebrated during that cup run because he got loads of like important goals as well. I think during that run for them.
I think it was a midweek game against Barcelona, wasn't it? That he scored from the corner taking quickly, didn't he?
Yeah, corner taking quickly. Oh, yeah, that's the one, isn't it? Yeah. The game at Home Park. I was in the Devonport, so I remember that Lucas Leiva header and just be like, oh, it was just early, it just sort of almost sucked the wind. And then this time round, almost it'd be like that's actually what you want to happen, almost like just get it over and done with, put us out of our misery, and then let us make 5 subs and concentrate on Millwall. Because, like you said, the longer it goes on, the more you'll be invested as a fan. You want us to win it, and are we really looking at the big scheme of things? But yeah, that and Jake Jervis at the back post sort of rising to nod in a header and just being an inch too short as just like the emotion of that moment. It's kind of like Peter Hartley's header at the back post, probably sat in quite a similar place actually for both of them. But it was just like the emotion of it just sort of fixed itself, burnt itself into my memory. That I just absolutely got it. That would have been up. That would have surpassed the Peter Hartley header, I think. That one, but Jake Jervis, of course, coming back to the club to play in the summer in the Legends
with
and
Cal the Dragon.
Cal the Dragon,
and loads of the cast of EastEnders. Who's Sam is a massive secret EastEnders fan, by the way, and absolutely loves.
No longer.
If you've got any EastEnders memes or videos, just send them to Sam on Twitter. He absolutely loves them. Just going through our lineup really quickly. We're milking this Liverpool game a little bit, but I'm having fun. Luke McCormick in goal, Oscar Frelkeld, who's now at Torquay, Jan Songo reunited with Derek Adams up at Morecambe, Sonny Bradley, who's still knocking about in League One with Wickham, Ben Purrington, who is at I can't remember, David Fox. I don't know.
Is he at Truro? Ben Purrington.
No, he's at Exeter. David Fox. I don't know what he's up to at the moment. Ben, Jake Jervis, Ryan Donaldson, Graham Carey, Jordan Slew, and Paul Arnold-Garita. And then obviously you cannot talk about Liverpool at home without that 10-minute cameo up front from he's Latvian, and I won't swear, but he'll murder you. Balvitis up top, bringing on the biggest centre back for the last 10 minutes against Premier League. A club the size of Liverpool is just incredible. Like you can't underestimate the shithousery from Derek. Even though we were losing, if we were 0-0 and managed to get one, then the scenes would have been
just Neil saying that how much that comment wound him up. I was just like, no, because don't tell Derek Adams, don't say those sort of things out loud, because Derek Adams will hear it, and somehow his sixth sense will pick that up and be like, appreciate the needle he creates. He was an absolute terror. Yeah, it's a shame it ended like it did, because he's probably still like not my favorite in terms of achievements, obviously, but in terms of just he got the club and we got him. He is such an Argyle manager.
Absolute hero. I think, have we done predictions? I've already said. No, I haven't already said.
Nope,
it's on the other bloody pod. I've gone 1-0 Argyle because I don't know why. I'm relentlessly optimistic at the moment about this game. In the other game, Millwall, I think I predicted a loss. But for this Liverpool game, I don't know why. Magic of the FA Cup, Nance fist pumping at the Devonport end. I'm all for it. 1-0 Liverpool win against Liverpool. It won't happen.
On the Anfield wrap, I predicted 1-3, but Neil sort of reeled off on our pod. It's just then how weak they're likely to line up. So it might be, maybe it's. Do you know what the thing is? I'm thinking like 2-2, and then we have to do extra time, and then like everyone's knackered, and we lose on penalties anyway, and everyone's destroyed for Millwall. So I don't really want to predict that, but maybe like a 2-2 or something. Yeah, and after extra time.
Yeah, I'm like fully against the removal of the replays. I'm so angry. Oh, well, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm over it now. As I've said on other pods, I've got other things in life to worry about than FA Cup replays. But at first, I was so angry that they would get rid of them, and it's so disrespectful to clubs lower down the pyramid. Like right now, I'm absolutely delighted that we do not have to go back to Anfield, and that's something that I never thought I would say. But yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that we can just 90 minutes, or when the full time whistle blows on Sunday, we know, and that's done.
Yeah.
I think that's everything.
Yeah. 1-0, 2-2. Let's see which of us is closest. Enjoy the game, everybody. Going to be a night to remember either way.
Yeah.
Hopefully, no giant pasties this time.
No. I believe there's going to be one. And that's I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. But just remember, bring your vocal cords, not just for the Jana song. Let's get Home Part absolutely rocking. I don't need to tell anybody to do that. I'm sure it will be an incredible atmosphere on Sunday. I'm absolutely buzzing for it, to the point where I'm coming down and having a 72-hour bender nice and early. But yeah, I think that's everything for us. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and all your major podcast platforms. Over 800 people joining us live, which for an impromptu thing that we only posted about earlier is incredible. Cheers. As always, doesn't go underappreciated. And we'll see you on Monday. I think we're live on Monday. I'm hosting, so it should be Monday, where should be coming live from Sam Down's house.